Have you ever found yourself lost in a constant internal dialogue or an unending stream of thoughts that seem to occupy every moment? Perhaps you've grown so accustomed to this voice in your head that you believe it to be the essence of who you are. But what if beyond that continuous mental chatter, there exists something far more profound? A presence that has always been with you, yet has often gone unnoticed. So many of us are submerged in the noise of our thoughts, so familiar with their sound that we hardly even recognize it anymore. But then, in a fleeting moment, that incessant noise quiets down. What do you find when silence rises in its place? The true awakening of consciousness begins right in that sacred pause. It's as if, for a brief instant, the veil is lifted and you're granted a glimpse of reality through an unclouded window. You see the vastness of something greater, a connection that has always been present but seldom recognized. Higher consciousness extends an invitation in that moment, not to get caught up in the maze of thoughts, but to find your way back to the present moment, the now. It is within this presence that true consciousness makes itself known. Awakening is less about discovering something new and more about rediscovering what has always been within you. In that stillness, if you take a moment to really observe, you may become aware that beyond the endless thoughts, there lies a quiet, peaceful presence. This presence is not foreign. It has been within you all along, patiently waiting to be seen. Perhaps you've already experienced this without even realizing it. A moment when time seemed to stand still, when everything around you faded into the background, and all that remained was a profound sense of being. These moments aren't rare, but they often slip by unnoticed. Today, you're about to explore what spiritual awakening truly feels like, and more importantly, you'll come to understand why the key to this awakening is rooted in pure presence, a state in which you awaken to your consciousness and realize that you can live beyond the ceaseless current of your thoughts. When you first begin to observe your own mind, an unsettling realization may dawn on you. Thoughts seem to appear on their own, like an endless voice that refuses to be silenced. This voice, relentless and ever-present, tends to dominate our experience of life, constructing a narrative that defines who we are, what we're doing, and how we perceive the world. The challenge with this internal dialogue isn't merely that it exists, but that we have become so deeply identified with it. Every time a thought surfaces, it drags along with it an identity, wrapping itself around our sense of self, convincing us that we are our thoughts. Over time, without even noticing it, we begin to build a false identity around these fleeting thoughts. This constructed self is shaped by judgments, memories, and projections into the future. We begin to believe that this mental creation is who we really are. But are you truly the thinker of your thoughts, or are you being thought by your mind? This question opens the door to a deeper reflection on the nature of consciousness. We often believe we control our thoughts, but in reality, they arise spontaneously, without our deliberate involvement. The mind spins stories, judges circumstances, compares outcomes, anticipates the future, and reminisces about the past, all while we passively go along, never questioning the validity or origin of these thoughts. Living in this state, where we are being thought by our thoughts, creates an illusion that traps us in a fabricated reality. It's as though we are caught in a dream where each thought shapes our perception of the world and dictates how we respond. When we are consumed by this state, we become disconnected from the present moment, swept away by the currents of thought, which either pull us into the past, filled with memories and regrets, or project us into the future, laden with anxiety and uncertainty. This perpetual cycle distances us from the true essence of being alive, conscious, and present. However, becoming aware of this constant mental flow is the first step toward awakening. The moment you recognize that there is a voice in your head, something extraordinary begins to unfold. This simple act of noticing creates a subtle but significant separation between you and your thoughts. Suddenly, you are no longer entirely immersed in the mental noise, and this opens up space for something new to emerge. Presence. This conscious observation is the beginning of a profound transformation. Once you realize that your thoughts are not you, but rather a product of the mind. The false identity they have built begins to lose its power. Over time, with continued practice, this mindful observation enables you to access a deeper level of awareness, where thoughts no longer dominate your reality, but simply exist as one element within it. The voice in your head will still be there. It is a natural function of the human mind to think. But what changes is the way you relate to that voice. Instead of being controlled by your thoughts, you start to observe them with a sense of detachment. And in doing so, you uncover a deeper truth. There is something beyond the constant chatter, a pure consciousness that observes, that is ever present. This is where the journey of true awakening begins, guiding you toward a deeper understanding of who you truly are. Once we begin to notice our thoughts, an important question naturally arises. What is the distinction between thinking and being truly conscious? It's easy to confuse the two because thinking happens so frequently. However, they are vastly different experiences, and understanding this difference is essential for awakening. Thought is inherently limited. It is shaped by the past, colored by memories, conditioned by beliefs, and restricted by our experiences. When we are trapped in thought, we fall into a repetitive cycle where the same stories, the same fears, and the same desires loop endlessly in our minds. It's like living inside a script that keeps playing, dictating our emotions, reactions, and the way we perceive the world. In this state, we are prisoners of the mind, and the illusion of control over life holds us captive in a reality that is far from authentic. Now, compare this to higher consciousness. Higher consciousness transcends the boundaries of thought. It is not confined by the past or concerned with the future. It is not shaped by memory or expectation. It simply is. When we are fully conscious, we are present. We engage deeply with the moment, experiencing it as it unfolds without the need to interpret, judge, or label. In this state, thought ceases, and we step into a vast space where our perception widens. Time loses its grip on us, and we encounter life directly in its purest form. Imagine standing before a breathtaking landscape, perhaps a sunset where the sky is ablaze with hues of orange, pink, and red. If you are trapped in thought, you might notice its beauty, but almost immediately, your mind begins to take over. This sunset is beautiful. I wish I could see this more often. Maybe I should plan more trips like this. These thoughts, although seemingly benign, pull you away from the direct experience of the sunset. Instead of fully immersing yourself in the moment, you are analyzing it, filtering it through the mind, and in doing so, you miss the depth of the experience. Now imagine that same sunset, but this time you experience it without thoughts. You simply witness it. You don't label it, judge it, or wish for it to be any different than it is. You are fully present with it. In that stillness, the moment expands. The richness of being alive, the sheer vibrancy of existence, becomes palpable. This is the state of pure awareness, when higher consciousness arises and the mind is quieted. This contrast can also be seen in our interactions with others. Consider the simple act of looking into the eyes of a young child before they have developed language or the capacity for complex thought. In their gaze, you find purity, clarity, and an absence of mental noise. They are simply present, fully connected with the moment, without judgment or expectation. This is the power of higher consciousness. It liberates us from the relentless cycle of thought and reconnects us with what is most true and essential in life. Unlike thought, consciousness is not bound by time, memory, or ego. When we are lost in thought, we are constantly preoccupied with who we are, what we have done, and what we need to achieve. The ego thrives on these stories, feeding our sense of separation from the world around us. But when we are present, the ego dissolves. There is no need to control, to be anything, or to prove ourselves. All that remains is the moment, and it is within the moment that we find true freedom. This freedom stems from the ability to observe thoughts without identifying with them. Instead of being swept away by the current of thoughts, we become the witness, the observer. This shift, from being consumed by thought to becoming the conscious observer, brings about a profound transformation. The mind continues to function, but it no longer governs our experience. We begin to appreciate the present moment in all its fullness, free from the limitations imposed by the constant activity of the mind. This transition from a life governed by thought to one grounded in presence is at the core of spiritual awakening. It allows us to experience life in a way that is deeper, richer, and more meaningful. As we live in this state of presence, we not only free ourselves from the suffering caused by the mind, but we also become more receptive to the boundless potential of life itself. As we deepen our awareness of the endless stream of thoughts that shape our perception, we come to an important realization. How do we step out of this cycle? The answer lies in something that is often overlooked yet is essential for awakening: inner space. Inner space is the vast, quiet awareness that exists beyond thoughts. It is the silent gap between one thought and the next. This space is not empty but filled with a profound presence, a spaciousness that allows us to experience life more deeply without being dominated by thought. To grasp this concept, we can turn to the metaphor of the Zen teaching of the empty cup. In Zen, it is said that to receive new teachings, one must first empty their cup, for a full cup can hold no more. This doesn't mean erasing all thoughts, but creating enough space within the mind for something new to arise. Imagine your mind as a cup overflowing with thoughts, worries, and judgments. When it's so full, there's no room for true awareness. But as you begin to create space, perhaps by observing your thoughts without judgment, you open the door to presence. This inner space allows you to witness thoughts without becoming entangled in them. And in this space, consciousness unfolds. Inner space grants us clarity in the midst of chaos. It allows us to live in a world full of noise while remaining grounded in a deep, peaceful stillness. This stillness is always available to us. It's the foundation of true awakening. As we nurture this inner space, we begin to experience life in a whole new way, one that is rooted in presence, clarity, and the timeless essence of who we truly are.